on with British writing to come out of the 19th century. But I forgot to mention the sewing machine. Under great feats of engineering on the part of the Victorians, well, I like to go from very big, like the Eiffel Tower, the Suez Canal, down to very small, like the sewing machine. What a major achievement that was, and think how much that changed life, where every stitch had to be done with needle and thread before that time. Now, Charles Darwin. The plot thickens in a way with starting now as we approach the 20th century. Charles, I'm sorry about the, well, it's probably noise to you. I'm fond of my barn swallows. You'll hear that for the rest of the year, I guess. 13 days that are left. He's a scientist, and his work has really divided the world. I think in this part of the world, the United States, particularly this part of the United States where I live, it tends to still be there more. Because his book was on the origin of the species. In my mind, it was around 1860 or something like that that it came out. He was a scientist, you know, and I've got him mixed in with all these other fiction writers, really. But it's classic, it's major. Although I always think of a science teacher I knew in this area who on his wall had a poster that said, evolution is science fiction. And it just amazed me really in a way that a science teacher could be saying that in a public school. But I understand the problem. I couldn't find my facsimile copy of On the Origin of Species. But when I talked about it, I like to have it and the Bible, one in each hand. And to say, here kids, there's been a fight between these books in a lot of people's minds. Because a lot of people cannot deal with the fact that this gives another version of the origin of all the different kinds of life. It seems to conflict with Genesis. Well, that's where we get the theory of evolution. I put evolution in quotes, so the whole thing would be the theory of evolution. Often people can't name his book, but they know that theory. And we also get from that the phrase survival of the fittest. Basically saying that the fittest are the ones who are able to create offspring who then go on to make more themselves. And if they're not fit enough to reach the point of reproduction successfully, then they die out. I mean, it's sort of in a nutshell. One thing I do want to say is that Darwin did not say that humans were descended from apes. If you hear anybody say, oh yeah, he's the guy that said man came from monkeys, that's just evidence that the person hasn't really read the theory or doesn't really know what he's talking about. Boy, my barn swallows are loud today. Well, so be it. I wrote down, so they hate the idea that it conflicts, but they haven't really studied it. I tell the kids that if they're going to go into science, especially biological sciences, they're going to have to know this theory. Whether they believe it or not, I guess is up to them, but they have to know it because that is the language of modern medicine and biological sciences. I say see Inherit the Wind. Well, Inherit the Wind is a black and white movie about the Scopes trial, sometimes nicknamed the monkey trial, in the 1920s in America. I want to say Tennessee, I think. A classic film about that debate. Okay, on we go. The Bronte Sisters, back to what everyone agrees is fiction. There were three of them, Emily, Charlotte, and Anne, and I get these two mixed up. Emily is the one who wrote Wuthering Heights. I guess I didn't have to look it up because it's on the cover of this, Wuthering Heights. I have read it. It's terribly sad. It's good. I mean, all of these are really good. I'm not drawn to these writers like some people are. Charlotte wrote Jane Eyre, classic. Both of these done into so many movies or television versions. And the other sister was Anne. She also wrote novels, but she didn't write any one novel that I think is quite as well known as these. Thomas Hardy. Now, you see, the Victorian era. This was, in my opinion, this was the great age of the novels. There were not yet movies. There were not yet television shows. People got their entertainment from reading novels and short stories to some extent too. And there are so many great ones to come out of the 19th century. I don't know if there'll ever be a time quite like that. Anyway, of these 18th and 19th century novelists, Thomas Hardy is the one that I like the most. As I've said often, I'm not much of a reader of long books, but probably his most famous book is Return of the Native. The one that I liked so much that I actually read it twice is Far from the Madding Crowd. It was made into a movie in the 1960s starring Julie Christie. I was so taken with the story that then I read the book and then I read it again. And to give an evidence of what a slow reader I am, I read the first page of Far from the Madding Crowd and it probably took me 5 minutes. I got to the end of it and I went back and I read the page over again. That's just how rich I found this writing to be. Tess of the D'Urbervilles, I'm not sure if that's spelled right. There's another one of his. Dark. This one's dark. I like Far from Madding Crowd because the farmer got the girl in the end. The poor, simple farmer. You had to wonder, was she worth it at that point? But anyway, I like that part and much more. What Thomas Hardy did was he took a part of England that he knew very well and fictionalized it, but described it in great detail. At one spot in Far from the Madding Crowd, there's a description of an old guy sitting at a kiln roasting malt, it just brings that you know, I've always preferred the country anyway, and it brings that to life for me. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, he's not nearly so famous as the character he created, Sherlock Holmes. I can't usually count on the kids to know his name, but they all know his name. The most famous detective of all time, with his magnifying lens, his hat going in both directions. Sometimes I'll ask the kids, anyone know what was in his pipe when he smoked it? He smoked opium. He had an opium habit. And what instrument did he play? Well, he played the violin. Brilliantly. And what I do with that in school, when I had time, I would show just a little bit of the beginning of a movie called The Young Sherlock Holmes. Steven Spielberg did it. Just a little bit to show that part where he looks and analyzes things and can tell so much from looking at so little. Usually, he wrote short stories. People know Sherlock Holmes, his sidekick, Dr. Watson, always saying, "Elementary, my dear Watson." People usually can't name any given short story of his, unless it's The Hound of the Baskervilles. Now, The Hound of the Baskervilles is longer than most of his short stories. One thing I guess else I want to say about this is that House, the modern day television show that's gone on for maybe almost 10 years, House is based on Sherlock Holmes. No one told me that. I was watching this, and after a while I figured it out. And then I looked, and sure enough, it's true. I mean, your home is your house, home. He has a sidekick named, House, what is his name? It's not like Watson, but this was Dr. James. I can't think what it is. But they sort of didn't hide it really. The address of their apartment number, the fact that House has a drug habit, the fact that House is a great musician, all of that stuff. I mean, it shows that this absolutely works still, this idea of the brilliant detective. All right, probably not doing these justice, but I've got one more video today about 19th century British classics that I want to share with you.